We are meeting after a long time. I hope you have missed me already. And actually, we never went away. True lovers always stay together. So we have been together. But today, after a long time, I'm starting Hok Aloron. And before I go to something else, I want to talk about few things, because we talk about the making of films, then we talk about cinema, how we can elevate it to something else, So few things I jot down. First of all, I will say that from the discussions regarding cinematography, what I found is, what I can find that there has been a scope for exploration and experimentation during the shoot, because many people were figuring out the lenses, they were experimenting with the lenses, and while using those lenses, while telling the story, trying out different things, they were figuring out. It was like evolution during the shoot. So not everything was planned beforehand in a very structured way, in a very pre-planned way. Maybe part of it was, and it has to be, but not everything planned beforehand. And a scope for exploration and experimentation, and we have seen different kinds of acting this year, and you can enjoy all those kinds of acting. And so what I will start with is choosing your path. Choosing your path. If you want to make a film, what is filmmaking? We have talked about filmmaking, but what is filmmaking? The departments. We have acting, we have cinematography, we have sound design, we have score, we have costume design, we have set design, we have all the other things. In acting, you have so many different things, different kinds of acting, different kinds of roles, different kinds of characters, and then you are shooting it with the camera. You have the sound, you are designing, diegetic sound, non-diegetic sound. Sometimes you are using SFX, you are designing the sound, you are orchestrating, and you are recording ambient sound, a mix of everything. In cinematography too, costume design, mise en scène, if I talk about, then your set design, and choosing your color palette, choosing your texture, choosing your tone or mood of the film, and accordingly you are creating everything. Maybe partly it is the backdrop, maybe partly it is the painting, maybe you are going on location, you are shooting in available light, maybe you are using extra lights, maybe you are shooting in studio. So there are different ways of shooting movies, but it will start with a script, or at least something. You have an idea, you have a vision of the movie, and you have something sketched out. And if you do it elaborately, maybe you have a script, maybe you have a treatment, maybe you have a scriptment, maybe you have nuanced storyboards, maybe you are going for previs, depending on the scale, depending on your own choice of experimentation. Sometimes maybe just for the sake of doing something, you are doing storyboards. Sometimes people do storyboards, sometimes they don't do storyboards. But you have to understand one thing, and I can tell this may sound very silly, but the thing is, you may want to do it, that's why you can do it, but ultimately it's the film. So if somebody is telling you that you have to go through this and that is taking you away from your idea of the film, then that is not a great thing to have. Maybe you have your own style of making films. So during the journey or during the process, or maybe you are figuring out the process, but you are figuring out your own voice, your own style, your own way of making films. Maybe you have a lot of inspirations. You are inspired by different filmmakers, from different places. It can be old black and white films, silent films. It can be something very artistic. Sometimes it can be of a different genre altogether. So I'm not talking about all those things. Inspiration can come from anywhere. What I'm talking about is, maybe this was your smooth flow and you could have made the movie in a better way, but many people can tell you, or maybe somebody is telling you to do this and that. That should not take you away from your filmmaking process. But you have to respect all these things, because it's a part of filmmaking. But why I am saying this, Sometimes people start with studio films, and you have a knack for studio films, so you know how it will click with the larger audience, how you are going to market it, how you are going to distribute it. That's okay. Sometimes you know when you are making an art house film, or I don't want to make that distinction, I don't want to use those terms, but maybe you are making a movie more artistically inclined, you know, not for a larger mass, but independent movie. Many people call it independent movie. Let's talk about independent movie. So you are taking the indie route. You are going for an independent movie. You're writing a script, or maybe you have an idea, you are shooting a movie with limited resources maybe, or if somebody is funding you, well and good, you are privileged to have that, you're lucky to have that. Sometimes you can just make a movie for the sake of making the movie. You want to tell a story at that point of time. So you can gather whatever you can. Sometimes the actors can be your friends, sometimes the costume designers can be your friends, and you are making a movie, you are telling a story. What you are not doing, you are not compromising on that storytelling. You are not even compromising on the casting, because maybe you know that person, but that person is a very good fit for that particular role. Sometimes what happens is, when you don't have those things, why I am talking about, because at one time we used to have 8mm, at one time we used to have 16mm films. Then came the digital camera. People used to do a lot of experimentation, you know, doing mistakes. Sometimes people go to film school, sometimes they don't go to film school, but there was a thing of experimentation. We learned from our mistakes, we tried different things, innovative things, creative things, and you know, during that process we learned a lot about filmmaking. So we know camera, we know the exposure triangle, we know this is ISO, this is the sensitivity, and initially it used to be ASA for films. Then you know the lenses, different cameras, different lenses, vignette, how you are going to have this effect with this lens on this mount or this camera. So a lot of experimentation you can do, but you know the stylistic choices you are making, what you are trying to convey, what you are trying to say. So acting for young people, sometimes maybe, why I am talking about all these things, you know, the enthusiasm of making films. When you are making an independent movie, you are doing justice to that movie. You know that you are making the best movie possible, or maybe you are trying to make the movie you want to make, so you are doing your best, you know, then you are giving it to the audience, but you are doing your best, you are not compromising in that. When you are making a studio movie, you are not making a compromise too. You are trying to make the best movie you possibly can make. Sometimes as an audience you would like to have, sometimes maybe you are looking at others' expressions and you are getting the feedback, you know, whether they have liked it, whether they have disliked it, they are giving you their constructive feedback. Different ways of doing things. But you know, at one time we didn't have a great set of cameras, but we had camera. We had all this exposure triangle and all these other things. But we had the joy of filmmaking. It could have been an 8mm camera, but there was a, what I can say, a passion for telling a story. Maybe we are telling a short story, but we wanted to tell a story. So 8mm camera, 16mm camera, then digital camera. Sometimes people have used phones to make a movie, but that zeal of making a movie, that passion of making a movie. Gradually you can go for a larger scale movie where you don't have to think about managing your resources, but still you have the time and budget constraint and you are managing accordingly. But you are not constantly thinking about how you can manage this, how you can manage that. You have the backing of the studio, you have backing of some producers, big producers. You can do that too. But what I am talking about is when you know filmmaking, when you understand filmmaking, when you find the joy of filmmaking, it can be an independent movie, it can be a big budget movie dedicated for greater mass, you want to distribute it accordingly. You will make great choices during the making of the film and afterwards. Suppose you have a great innovative idea how you are going to distribute the movie. just because you want to tell the story, you will come up with, maybe discussing with other people, with your other team members, how you can market it, because you can really take it to the audience in a different way. Maybe you are figuring out different ways of doing the marketing because you want to tell the story, you want to take it to the audience, so you are figuring out all those things. But if you look at the obstacles only, you won't be making the film you want to make. You won't be making the best way you can make it, So there will be obstacles, but what you are looking at is you want to make the movie the best way you can. So you are not making any compromises regarding making the movie. Then you are taking it to the audience. If you go for independent distribution, you are finding distributions. So different ways of doing this, but looking at those movies, appreciating great movies, appreciating great works of art, painting, literature, other fine arts. When you have that appreciation, and it happens like that only. Many people say, again, it's a silly thing. You should not ask this question, but if you are starting out, I will talk about that. What is painting got to do with filmmaking? I mean, you can have so much inspiration from a painting, different kinds of painting, different ways of doing paintings, different kinds of painters, different movements of painting, and there are other fine arts as well. And you can take inspiration from all these things, and for that particular story, you can tell the story in a different way. But as a human being, you are getting inspired all the time. You are looking at an art exhibition, you are going to a painting exhibition, or maybe a mixed media, or maybe a performance art. You're always, having inspiration around you. Then maybe you are writing a script. It is also taking some time while you are writing the script. Sometimes you are taking 1 month, sometimes you are taking 1 week, sometimes people are taking years, more than 1 year, sometimes they are taking 1 year, sometimes they are taking more than 1 year. Depends, your way of writing. Sometimes you have written a script long time back, then you are again taking it out from the shelf, and then you are doing your modifications, and for that current scenario you are doing your modifications, and then you are making the movie. Different ways of doing it, but you are always getting inspired. So that inspiration you should never miss, that enthusiasm you should never miss, that joy you should never miss. That is how I want to start phase 2, and these are basic things. If you are really into filmmaking, if you love filmmaking, if you watch filmmaking, because I always ask a question, are you looking up to something external? Because I personally believe that films can be the best teachers. If you want to make a film, if you want to be in filmmaking, then films can teach you the best. You don't have to look for any other external motivation, or any other external inspiration, or anything external. Because films can teach you a lot. It can teach you about editing, it can teach you about cinematography, it can teach you about set design, costume design, everything, and the wholesome aspect of it. How everything is coming together to tell a story for a particular film. And there are different genres, there are different kinds of making films. So, this is also one thing I wanted to say. When you are continuously looking for something external, maybe you can make a story in a great way if you trust your voice, if you actually listen to yourself, and if you actually believe in the director you have inside you, or maybe the actor you have inside you, or anything related to cinema. If you really believe in that, then you will coming up with a lot of creative ideas, innovative ideas, and eventually you will make your film. But if you miss that inspiration, if you are always looking for something external, someone will do that, something will happen, then I will do that, this will happen, maybe you are procrastinating, maybe you are too much dependent on something external, then you won't be making the film you want to make. You won't be even writing the script you want to make. But if you are really enthusiastic about it, suddenly you go to a cafe and suddenly an idea sticks to you and you start writing. Maybe you are starting taking notes, you are not writing a script. Gradually it will evolve to a script, or maybe a performance, or maybe something else, a work of art. So inspiration is everywhere. You can jot down ideas. Not this is something bad, not this is something good. We are learning from each and everything. We are learning from people, looking at people, observing people, and then, the colors of your imagination. You are trusting your imagination, you are trusting your instincts, and you are believing in imagination. Imagination is very powerful. And when you are talking about cinema, imagination can play a huge role, So observation, imagination, all these things you are doing. So you are choosing your path. Sometimes it can be a big budget movie. You have time and budget constraint. You can be very disciplined. You have everything planned and you are doing it accordingly. There can be modifications. There can be controlling procedures, but you know that you have to finish the movie in a stipulated time. Maybe pre-production within this time, then your production within this time, then your post-production. And then you are going to release in maybe in a particular month or during that time for particular reasons. So you are maybe helping the marketing campaigners or designing the marketing campaign, helping them to, you can do all those things. And sometimes maybe you are taking a different route, you are figuring out things on the way, so along the way you are figuring things out. You are taking time and you can do whatever you want. But you are learning filmmaking, you are learning about filmmaking. So appreciating, the making of the film, that is one thing. And then you are elevating it to cinema, great cinema, elevating it to something artistic, or maybe something really, people, it can make people, say, wow, that is something you can do. Many people can make movies, but what takes a lot of effort, what takes a lot of practice, what takes a lot of enthusiasm, passion, love, whatever we call it, actually you have to mean it, because in cinema you cannot lie like that. When you mean it, when you know how to channelize, and when you know how to tell your story using the cinematic language, using the visual language, you will see that you will tell the story. Sometimes you will just trust your instinct, and you will trust yourself as a human being, as an artist, as a director, as an actor, as a craftsman, as anyone related to cinema. When you trust that, sometimes that will do its own wonders, and you will come up with a great movie. But you have to be genuine about it. Then you will see that many people can make films, but your films are getting elevated to that thing, that cinema, that kind of cinema, art. So you can choose your path. But the problem is, in India, if I talk about India, there are mixed approaches, and there are people, there are situations, they will confuse you a lot. And when you go through that path, unless you are always looking for something external, unless you are always looking up to someone to help you do that, like you are not putting your own effort, you don't trust your own efforts, rather you think that someone will come and you will take that person's things and you will say something. I'm not talking about that kind of things. When you really become a good artist, when you really become a good filmmaker, maybe you are writing it on your own, maybe someone else is writing it and you are directing it, wherever you are in the process, but you are respecting each and everything. And you will see that with that, professionalism will come, with that great storytelling will come, with that great cinema will come. But at the fundamental level, there are people, there are situations that can confuse you a lot, sometimes deliberately, sometimes they don't even know what they are doing. So, but you can know. That's why if you are always looking for something external regarding that situation, you won't be trusting your own voice. You won't be trusting what you can learn just by looking at the movie. So what I can say is, just look at the films and you can learn a lot. You read the biographies, you look at films, you try things out on your own, and you will learn a lot, right? So focus on the right things, not on the obstacles. So focus on the right things, you will tell great stories, you will come up with innovative ideas. Sometimes with limited constraints, you will be telling a great story, and people will ask you, how did you shoot that scene? And then you will be very happy to share that experience with people. You know, those things will come. Seriousness and fun, you know, I use those terms a lot, and you will see that obviously we are doing a serious job. Money involved, time involved, people involved, many things involved. We are doing a really serious thing, but again, we are having fun. Sometimes people say this is the best profession in the world. We are enjoying each and every bit of it, you know. So seriousness and fun, the way you want to use it, but if you understand the meaning, you have got the meaning. So that's the thing, you know. So yeah, I think it's a good start. Then let's see what we can talk about in the next sessions. But I hope you start making films. I hope you come up with ideas, and when you make films with that respect, you know, when you respect your films, when you respect yourself, when you respect your learning, when you respect your process of making the film, when you respect your artistic processes, paths will open for you. You know, you can go to festivals, many people can come and they can produce your movie, you can find producers, you can find distributors, but paths will open. But if you don't trust filmmaking, if you have that cynical approach towards filmmaking all the time, then you won't be telling great stories. You won't be coming up with great ideas, you know. But I have listened to some interviews, I have discussed with some people. I know it's very difficult to make indie films made in the current scenario. Sometimes it's very difficult to find distribution. Sometimes it's very difficult to make the independent films. But if you want to learn filmmaking, if you want to make filmmaking, you know, for the sake of telling a story, for the sake of making a film, and you are genuine about it, and you are actually respecting each and every bit of it, then I think you will find a way. You will find the distributors, you can go to the festivals and you can get some recognition, and maybe you are doing a big budget movie, you are, you know, doing your movie accordingly, and you are doing your marketing. When I am talking about filmmaking in Hok Aloron, you know, I am infusing a bit of business, I'm infusing a bit of filmmaking, I'm infusing a bit of art. So everything is mixed here in Hok Aloron. But when I'm talking about things in other places, maybe I am focusing more on those aspects. But here in Hok Aloron, we are learning from each and everything. Sometimes from art, we are also learning about business, because if you can help the business grow, then obviously people will love to produce your movies too, you know, and you will be telling great stories. So it's about relationships too. So first you respect your work, first you respect the thing you are doing, great storytelling, then everything will happen. Thank you.